Hi there. Welcome to my kitchen and welcome to a rather fast video in which we will be preparing a 12-pound pork shoulder and turning it into pulled pork. More about that in a little bit. Right now let's get started with a very simple rub for the pork. Let me see, since this is going to go into a covered cast iron pot, I'm going to start off with some corn oil, as I want this to be thicker than using water. And unfortunately, I have not had time to marinate this pork shoulder in advance, regrettably. But again, since it's going to be doing a slow cook in a covered cast iron pot, it should still come out just fine. This is going to be going to work tomorrow, that's why I have to do this kind of hastily. And we will add some vinegar to this in order to help penetrate the meat and, well, provide at least a little bit of marinating. Now, meanwhile, we've got our spices, of course, and I think we will just go with one of my favorites, my old Simon and Garfunkel spices, and yes, those are exactly what you think they are if you know the song. And then finally, to give this some heat and some interesting flavor, we have quite a bit of good Old Bay seasoning. A huge container here, thanks to BJ's. And no, not that kind of BJ's either. Alright. Nice and simple. Nice thing about pulled pork is this is one of the easiest cast iron dishes in the world to make. You can put just about any ingredients together with a pork shoulder and slow cook it for several hours, and you will have yourself one heck of a tasty pulled pork. So there's really nothing to this. So it seems I have some upstairs neighbors who are making a little bit of noise. I'm not sure if that's going to be in the video or not, but it should be interesting nonetheless. And that rub is nice and simple. So let's put it aside and pull out the star of the show. Well, the other star of the show. One of my favorites. This is the number 12 Birmingham Stove Range cast iron Dutch oven. The pot itself is a Century series, but the lid is a good old vintage Red Mountain. The lid especially I'm very proud of, and one of these days I'm going to get a Red Mountain pot to match that. I'm thinking I might as well keep the trivet in there as well, since it'll be good to just rest the pork shoulder onto this. It's a nice vintage trivet too. It originally came with a Wagner number 9 Dutch oven that unfortunately not only cracked but really burst apart while cooking several years back. But I saved the trivet. And having said that, let's do the real star of the show. And haha. Nice 12-pound pork shoulder, which fits nicely in the pot here. As I mentioned, unfortunately I did not have time to marinate this in advance, as I got this last night. My plan was, there we go. My plan was to prepare this to bring into the office on Monday, so I was going to marinate this on Sunday, let it sit all day Sunday, and then slow cook it on Sunday night. But there was something of a change of plans, as it seems work. I learned at work today that there is a pretty good chance that on Monday I may be flying to South Carolina to do a job. So that means I have to quickly get this together and bring it into work tomorrow, Friday, since I'm not likely to be able to bring it in on Monday, and you really can't let this thing sit much longer than that. So we get to do this now. I was reading as to whether it would be better to do the fat cap up or the fat cap down, since of course the common wisdom is that by putting the fat cap on top, it will melt and render the meat, and the fat will render rather, and that will help to season or baste the pork shoulder. On the other hand, there's some other advice that says you should really face the fat cap towards the heat source, and in my oven that means it's going to be mostly from below, because I have the oven set at 260 degrees roughly Fahrenheit, so that means most of the heat is going to be coming from the bottom burner, not the top. And as I said, pulled pork is so incredibly easy to make. You could put just about anything onto this, and I know this is going to turn out great. Finally, some braising liquid. I'm not going to pour it on the pork shoulder because I don't want to wash off the rub. Which I seem to have done in one corner of it. Hopefully this little bit will help. So that's mostly fat anyway. And with that, we cover the pot. And into the oven she goes. And away we go. And with that, this will be cooking at about 260 degrees for the next, it looks like the next 8.5 hours, which should give us some lovely pulled pork to take into the office tomorrow. And I will see you then for the unveiling. Good morning. It's been 8.5 hours, and now we get to see what has happened. Moment of truth. This is probably my favorite moment. Now from here, let's see, there we are, that's what we want to do. This is the part I enjoy, which is taking out the bones and then having at it. The lovely thing about pulled pork in cast iron is how easy it is to take out the bones. Now, this thing is so tender, it just falls right apart. Cannot lift the whole thing up at once or else it'll just collapse. And that is how you know it's done. And there we go. Now the hard part is done. And now we get to play with our food. And fork it up. And this, of course, is why they call it pulled pork. So this dish will go into work this morning, where it will be served with barbecue sauce or other toppings. And we will have some lovely pulled pork sandwiches and dishes. Which comes back to what I said last night. Pulled pork is possibly one of the easiest cast iron dishes in the world to make. If you have not used your cast iron yet to make some pulled pork, you should certainly give it a try. You will not be disappointed. It is delicious, it is tender. It's a feast for the eyes, as well as for the tummy. And with that, I believe we are done. Well, I hope you folks have enjoyed this. Thank you very much for watching. And as always, have fun.